Hi guys, thanks for checking in with me. I really appreciate it because I have a neat opportunity that presented itself and I don't want to miss sharing it with you. What it is I'm going to show you a couple of really easy ways to preserve herbs and things. Whether you grow it yourself, whether you harvest it from the wild, or even if you buy it in the grocery store, use some of it, and you have some left and you don't want it to go bad on you for some future time. Here's a couple ways you can make sure that doesn't happen, and they're really simple. The first way is freezing. I have this lemon balm here, and I harvested this today. And the reason I did is because it's growing really close to my woolly mint, and lemon balm is also a mint, and they're both really invasive, in addition to which, if you let two different mints grow in close proximity to each other, they'll cross-pollinate, and your mint will end up being bitter, and we don't want that. So, I mean, both mints, not just one. So it'll ruin them both. And we don't want that. And I really don't want that for my woolly mint patch. And the reason is, I got a little story to tell you. My dad grew up in the house next door. When my grandparents passed away, he got the house again. So he lives there now, and he lived there as a child. I ended up buying this house from the neighbor. And when Dad was a little boy, a Mrs. Winter lived here. When she passed away, she left it to her son. And then just a few years before he passed, he sold it to me. Well, Mrs. Winter, way back when my dad was a little boy, she wanted to grow mint at the back of her property in the worst way. And she kept trying to propagate it, and it wouldn't take off. And she kept trying to grow it right along the property line. And it just wouldn't grow for her. Well, my dad and my Uncle David decided that they were going to raise guinea pigs, and they had them back there in raised pens. Well, since she was trying to grow the mint so close to the property line, it decided it really liked it under those guinea pig pens with all that fertilizer. So it wouldn't take for her, but it did take next door under the guinea pig pens, and it got a good hold there and then spread back over to our property, to my property. And so it's been growing there now for, I don't know, about 60 years, maybe more, probably about 60 years. And so for that reason, and because of the sentimental thing with the association for my dad with his childhood and the thoughts of it in my mind, I protect that mint. And I don't want this making it bitter and ruining it. So every time I see it pop its little head up over there, I rip it out. And so I tore that out today, and I don't want it to go to waste. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze it. I brought it in, I rinsed it, and I just stripped the leaves and the flexible stems off of it. Because some of the bigger stems were stiff. I didn't want them for this freezing. You'll see why. It would get in the way. But the leaves and the flexible stems, I ripped them off, and now we're just going to put them in a bag, any freezer bag. You don't have to worry about the brand or anything. Just get whatever freezer bag you like to get, as long as it seals shut at the end. And then you either put all of your product into it, or you fill it to just before the seal, where it seals. And the reason you want to leave just a little bit of space at the top is that when you're flattening it out, which we're going to do and stuff, what you have in the bag will move forward, and you don't want it to get in that sealing mechanism. So, first step, squish it, to squish as much of the air out you can that way, and then you start rolling it very tightly, rolling the air out, kind of like if you are trying to roll a sleeping bag. You know how you have to roll a sleeping bag really, really tight to get it into its little bag? That's what you're doing here, because you want to get all the air out, because it's oxygen that causes freezer burn, and we don't want that. Then when you get to the end, if you have any leaves in your sealing mechanism, and I'm saying it that way because, you might have a Ziploc, you might have something that pulls across, but whatever it may be, if there are leaves in there, push them down in. Mine, I left out, it doesn't have any, and I've squished out the air as best I can. So now you just seal it closed, holding it down so you don't let that air back in. You just seal it closed. And I'm never good at sealing these things. Did I get it? No. See? Told you. This is like my second or third take on it, and I have a feeling this is going to be the keeper, but in spite of the fact that This is the only time that the seal isn't sealing first try for me. There we go. And now what you'll see is, well, first of all, you can go like this, squish it up a little bit more, and if you have a little bit of air in there, it's the perfect opportunity to just open your seal a tiny bit, say finger width, inch, 2 inches, something like that, just a tiny bit, and squeeze that air bubble out, and then seal it back up. There you go. And then you can open it up, flatten it out, and you will see that there's not air in there. It's perfectly sealed and flat, straight. And so it's easy to either pile in your freezer, or you can set them side by side and file them alphabetically, whatever suits you. But it took a couple of seconds and it's preserved. Just throw it in the freezer. Make sure to label it, because if you're doing this with a lot of different things, once they're frozen and they're just all these little frozen green leaves, you're not going to be able to tell one thing from another. And then each time you use it, you just open it, take out as much of it as you want to use, re-roll it, reseal it. Perfectly simple. And you just watched me do the whole process. It took me a few minutes. And the only reason it took me as long as it did is because I'm babbling. Anyway, and I told you a big story too. And this is wild garlic mustard. I harvested this because I was putting in a raised bed where it was growing and I tore it out. Didn't want to just throw it away, so I picked it. And this I'm going to dry. And I want to show you how to do that. That's also real easy. Bring it in, again, you rinse it, and then you let it air dry so that the water comes off it. Then you take a string and you just tie it around the end of the stems, because you're going to hang it upside down. And one thing to be aware of is that as things dry, they shrink. So this string can become loose. You can do two things. You can either watch it, and when it gets loose, you can tighten it, or you can say, well, it's not going to fall out, I'm not worried. Or when you're first doing it, so you never have to worry about anything with it again, just take a bread tie up here. Here's your string. Above it, put a bread tie. Tighten that down. Squeeze, one of those twist ties, and tighten it. If the stems start getting loose, tighten it some more when you happen to notice it, and you're done. And if you are drying something like lavender or rosemary, say the wild mustard plants, and you want the flowers, and they're little and you're thinking they're probably going to fall off when they dry, just take a piece of cheesecloth, muslin, wrap it loosely around your thing, tie it up around whatever it is you're drying, tie it up here to hold it on, and the air will flow through that nicely. It'll still dry. It'll be perfect. And then you just hang it. And where you hang it is just about anywhere. Seriously. Keep it out of direct sunlight. Don't put it right by a heat source like a radiator. Don't put it in the most humid rooms of your house, like, for example, the bathroom, because that's very humid and it's also disgusting. And that's it. That's all you have to worry about. Anywhere you have space that you can hang it and it's going to get air, go ahead. Don't put it in a closet, a tiny closet, because no air circulates in there, but anywhere else, just hang it. So there were two quick, easy ways to keep your fresh herbs from going bad. And the freezing and the drying. Freezing, stick it in a bag, squish the air out, seal it. Drying, tie a string around the stem, hang it upside down somewhere where it'll get air, done. And the way you can tell when it's done drying is these will be crisp. The leaves will be crisp, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And then when you go to use them, just keep in mind that the ones in the freezer, when they come out, they're not going to have the same texture. Well, neither of them will, but the ones that come out of the freezer will be kind of mushy. You're not going to want to use them on things like salads or anything. You're going to want to use them in something you cook, on a roast, in potatoes, in soups, anything like that. But you're not going to want to use things out of the freezer that you would want them to have a crunchiness to them or anything, because they won't. The ones that you dry are going to be just like the dried things that you buy, the dried spices and herbs that you buy on the grocery store shelves, be just like that. So anything that you would use those dried things for, you can use these dried things for. It's the same thing. And there we have it. Two quick, easy ways. And I hope you enjoyed your time with me, because I know I enjoyed thinking that you guys are out there, and hoping that, maybe I shared something that'll be helpful to somebody, and you enjoy the rest of your day. go out and have a little bit of fun. And join me again if you're interested. Or if you're really interested, want to see all the weird stuff that I'm doing from time to time, just click on the subscribe button that's below the video on your computer or laptop, and there you have it. Okay, thanks a lot, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.